The opposition has released its vision for Australia's broadband future. It's a combination of fibre and wireless, and on paper is 80% cheaper than Labor's national broadband network. But does the cut-price plan cut the mustard with business? Here's Andrew Robertson.
Melbourne-based telecommunications analyst Kevin Morgan has spent a large part of his working life in Labor's heartland, the union movement. But despite his Labor affiliation, it's the coalition broadband policy he prefers.
I think it's a very effective and carefully targeted piece of policy that could bring higher speed, I'm not saying high-speed broadband, but higher speed broadband, and actually broadband for the first time to perhaps 1 million households that haven't been able to get any sort of fixed-line broadband.
The key components of the coalition broadband policy are spending $6.3 billion on a network that combines fibre, wireless and satellite. 97% of premises to have broadband speeds of 12 to 100 megabits a second by 2016, and there'll be what's known as dual backhaul, which will allow other carriers to compete with Telstra away from the big cities. Jason Ashton is the chief executive of Big Air, a company which owns and operates Australia's largest metropolitan fixed wireless broadband network. He says the backhaul plan will be a big benefit for his company in areas where Telstra currently has a monopoly.
Once you unlock that barrier and you create an open access, a contestable backhaul that other carriers can piggyback on, then you'll see competition in those markets and you'll see improved services for the end users, for the actual residents in those regional and remote areas.
Ian Burks is head of Australia's peak business information technology organisation. While he agrees there's a lot to like in the coalition's plans, he worries about the longer term.
The fibre to the home and the fibre to the premise that's being proposed by the government is generally thought of within industry as to be the fastest and ultimately the most expandable and flexible and scalable in terms of the technology options. The wireless option and the use of cable that's been proposed by the opposition is not as, potentially not as future scalable.
The small business community has been very vocal in its opposition to the coalition's plan to scrap the national broadband network. Council of Small Business Associations Executive Director Peter Strong says nothing he heard today from the coalition has changed his mind.
What the opposition's got to offer, it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, but it's just not as good as what the government's got. And that price difference shows that difference as well. As $43 billion compared to $7 billion, yes, the national broadband network is going to be a better product.
The medical profession is sweating on high-speed broadband to revolutionise healthcare in regional areas in particular. However, the head of the Australian Medical Association says lack of bandwidth may be an issue if the national broadband network is axed.
It was previously determined that 34 was the point at which we could depend on good, fast transmission. I think once you start dropping below that, there are going to be variable dropouts, and it may well be that it will interfere with our ability to deliver the full telemedicine potential.
While he prefers the Labor model, Dr Pesha says the lack of action so far from both sides of politics is putting the brakes on the e-health revolution.